You know what the difference is between being busy and being alive? Because I look at my calendar and see every minute filled. Wake up, coffee, kids, school, work, grocery store, dinner, homework, bath, bed. And the next day, all over again. Like a train on tracks that never stops. But there's a moment, usually when the house finally gets quiet and you're there alone with your thoughts, when that question comes, the one you don't have the courage to ask out loud. Is this all there is? Don't get me wrong. You love your kids. You're grateful for what you have. But deep down, really deep down, there's a restlessness you can't name. Like you're living someone else's life. Like there's something bigger you should be doing, being, experiencing. But you don't know what. And then comes the guilt. How can I be feeling this way when God has given me so much? What's wrong with me? But what if there's nothing wrong with you? What if this restlessness is exactly the evidence that you were made for something beyond what you can see right now? You know that feeling of watching your own life from the outside, like you're a spectator instead of the main character. Like God is writing an incredible story, but you've somehow gotten stuck in the prologue, reading the same pages over and over, while the rest of the book remains closed. Today I want to show you something that can completely change the way you see, not just your routine, but why you're exactly where you are. And if you're feeling this resonate in your chest right now, do something for me. Share this video with that friend who also needs to hear this. Subscribe to this channel, because we're going to continue this conversation in the coming weeks, discovering truths that will help you see the extraordinary hidden in your ordinary. Imagine you find an old book in the attic. The cover is worn, the pages yellowed. You open to the first page and see a name written by hand. Yours. Curious, you start reading, and you realize this isn't fiction. It's your life. Every detail. The day you were born, your first day of school. That summer when you were 10, your first love, your wedding, the birth of your children. But here's what takes your breath away. The date on the book's cover is from 200 years ago. How can there be a book detailing your life that was written centuries before you were born? Sounds like science fiction, right? But that's exactly what Psalm 139:16 is saying. Your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written, every one of them, the days that were formed for me, when as yet there was none of them. All your days, written, before you lived a single one of them. That chaotic Tuesday last week when the car broke down and you had to get a ride. It was in the book. That sleepless night when your daughter had a fever. It was there. That moment this morning when you spilled coffee on your clean blouse and wanted to cry because it was the last straw. God already knew. But here's what changes everything. He didn't just know, he wrote it. With purpose, with intention, with love. You're not improvising your life, trying to figure out what to do each day. You're discovering a script that's already been written by someone who knows you better than you know yourself. Think about the last time you planned a surprise party. You spent weeks organizing every detail, right? Who to invite, what food to serve, how to decorate. And during all that time, the person the surprise was for had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. She was just living her normal life, going to work, running errands, completely unaware of the fact that you were orchestrating something beautiful for her. And then the day came. The lights came on. Everyone shouted, "Surprise!" And in that moment, everything made sense. All the strange requests you made, all the suspicious behaviors, all the pieces fit together. That's how it is with God. Right now, while you're living your ordinary day, thinking nothing special is happening, God is behind the scenes orchestrating something you can't see yet. That casual conversation you had with a neighbor at Starbucks last week, God was positioning you two exactly there, at that moment. That book that accidentally fell off the shelf at the library wasn't an accident. That song that played on the radio right when you were on the verge of a breakdown, God hit play. Ephesians 2:10 says we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand, that we should walk in them. Beforehand. Prepared. Before you woke up today, God had already prepared opportunities, encounters, moments of grace that He wanted you to experience. You're not drifting. You're not lost. You're not behind. You're exactly on the page God is turning right now. And what seems like chaos to you is actually the author moving the pieces for the next chapter. And you know what's even more incredible? He didn't write you as a supporting character. You're not an extra in someone else's story. You're the protagonist of the story He's telling through you. That life that seems so ordinary, so repetitive, so insignificant. God looks at it and sees something precious, something unique, something that no one else can live the way you can. So maybe the question isn't, is this all there is? Maybe the question is, what is God writing through this that I can't see yet? Have you ever watched those movies where the main character doesn't know they're in a reality show? Like The Truman Show? He wakes up, goes to work, lives his life, completely oblivious to the fact that millions of people are watching his every move. Sometimes I wonder if that's not how we live. We go to the grocery store irritated because the line is long. We honk in traffic. We roll our eyes when the cashier is rude. And we completely forget that we're on stage. Hebrews 12:1 talks about being surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. Not just God watching you, but an entire bleacher section of heaven observing how you live. Should that make us paranoid? No, but it should make us think. Because here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Your life isn't about you. It never was. And the moment you understand that, everything changes. Let me tell you about Sarah. Fictitious name, real story. She was a mother of 3 who came to our church. Always smiling, always serving, always present. One day we found out she had late-stage cancer. 6 months, the doctors said. You know what she did? Instead of locking herself at home to process the tragedy, she started writing letters. One for each child to open at specific moments in life. Graduation, wedding, birth of their first child. She recorded videos. She organized favorite recipes in a cookbook. And in those last weeks, when she could barely get out of bed, she'd ask people to come visit her. Not to console her, but so she could encourage them, to pray for them, to remind them that God is faithful, even when life falls apart. At her funeral, the church was packed, and not just with Christians. There were neighbors, co-workers, moms from the kids' school, and one by one, they stood up and told stories of how Sarah had impacted their lives, casual conversations that changed perspectives, simple gestures that brought hope, whispered prayers that were answered. Sarah understood something many of us forget. God doesn't waste pain. He uses it. He transforms tragedy into testimony. He takes what the enemy meant to destroy and turns it into a platform for His glory. Philippians 1:20 captures this perfectly. It is my eager expectation and hope that I will not be at all ashamed, but that with full courage now as always Christ will be honored in my body, whether by life or by death. Whether by life or by death. In other words, God, whatever you're writing through me, may you get the glory. And you? What is God writing through your life right now that you can't see because you're too busy complaining about the script? That difficult marriage? Maybe God is using you to show the couple next door that it's worth fighting for. That rebellious child? Maybe God is preparing you to minister to other desperate mothers 5 years from now. That financial struggle? Maybe God is teaching you about provision in a way you'll testify about for decades. You're not just surviving. You're being shaped, prepared, positioned, and people are watching. Your kids are observing you to see if your faith is real or just Sunday talk. Your co-workers are watching to see if Christians really are different. Heaven is watching to see if you'll trust when you can't understand. 2 Corinthians 3:2 says something radical. You yourselves are our letter of recommendation, written on our hearts, to be known and read by all. You are a letter. Your life is the message, and people are reading. So what are they seeing? A woman embittered by circumstances? Or a woman who still chooses to praise when it doesn't make sense? A woman who gave up? Or a woman who keeps getting up? Not because she's strong, but because she serves a God who is. The stage is lit. The audience is waiting. And God is asking you, do you trust me enough to live as if this all has purpose, even when you can't see it? There's a word in Portuguese that I love. Saudade. That feeling of longing for something you can't name. A nostalgia for a place you've never been. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says that God has put eternity into man's heart. Eternity. In your heart. That's why nothing here satisfies completely. That's why you can have everything you ever wanted and still feel that quiet emptiness. Not because something is wrong with you, but because you were made for something more. C.S. Lewis said, "If I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. You were made for another world, and while you're stuck in this one, there's always this sacred restlessness, this sense that you're away from home. But here's what most people don't understand. This restlessness isn't meant to be cured. It's meant to be used. It's what makes you pray when you should be sleeping. It's what makes you seek more of God when it would be easier to settle for less. It's what keeps you from settling into a mediocre life when you were called to something extraordinary. Think about Abraham. God told him, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." Genesis 12:1. Go where? To the land that I will show you. In other words, start walking. I'll show you when you get there. And Hebrews 11:8 tells us, "By faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to a place that he was to receive as an inheritance, and he went out, not knowing where he was going." Not knowing where he was going. That's the definition of faith. And you know what Hebrews 11:10 reveals about Abraham's motivation? For he was looking forward to the city that has foundations, whose designer and builder is God. He wasn't just traveling to Canaan. He was traveling home, to a city that didn't exist on earth yet, but already existed in God's plans. That's what restlessness does. It keeps you walking when you don't know where you're going. Because deep down you know this world isn't the final destination. You're not crazy for not being satisfied with a comfortable life. You're awake. You're hearing heaven's call saying, "There's more. Keep walking. Keep seeking. Keep trusting." And then comes the final question, the one that really matters. What are you going to do with this restlessness? Are you going to try to suffocate it with more Netflix, more shopping, more distractions? Or will you let it lead you to a place of surrender where you finally say, "God, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust you. Write through my life what only you can write." Because when you get to that place, something supernatural happens. Peace comes. Not because circumstances changed, but because you stopped fighting the script and started trusting the author. So we come back to where we started, to that question. Is this all there is? And now you know the answer. No. Definitely not all there is. This is just the prologue, the first act, the opening pages of a story that will continue far beyond the last breath you take on this earth. Revelation 21:5 records God saying, "Behold, I am making all things new." New, not fixed, not patched up. New. That broken marriage? God is making something new. That pain that seems permanent? God is making something new. That part of you that died and you think will never come back? God is making something new. And when you're finally on the other side, when you're in His presence, and you look back at the entire journey, you'll fall to your knees. Not in pain, but in gratitude. Because you'll see what he saw all along. That every tear watered something beautiful. That every delay prepared you for something bigger. That every no from God protected you from something that would have destroyed you. That every wait positioned you for something you would have missed if you'd arrived earlier. And you'll whisper, "You were right all along. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for continuing to write when I wanted to close the book. Thank you for loving me when I wasn't lovable. Thank you for choosing me when I had nothing to offer." But you don't have to wait until then to live in that gratitude. You can start today. Look around. Look at the life you thought was all there is. And ask God, what are you writing here that I'm not seeing? And then live as if the answer matters. Because it does. Every moment matters. Every choice matters. Every small act of faith matters. You're in the book. Your story is being told. And the author doesn't make mistakes. So today, wherever you are, whether in the kitchen, washing dishes, in the car stuck in traffic, in bed fighting anxiety, whisper this: God, I trust your script. I trust your timing. I trust you. Write through me a story that brings glory to your name. And let that prayer change everything. Because when you live knowing your life has eternal purpose, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The common becomes sacred. And all there is transforms into all of this. Now tell me, what is God writing through your life right now? What chapter are you living? Leave a comment, because your story might be exactly what another woman needs to hear today to not give up. And if this conversation touched something deep in you, share it with that friend who also needs to be reminded that she's not just surviving, she's being written into an eternal story.